Why do we do this in the first place? I think two probably in retrospect misguided concerns. I think some of it was thinking of like, wow, there's a lot of complexity to these items. They have different traits for different classes. And if a piece of leather drops is a rogue and a demon hunter and a monk all looking at that and thinking about like what this does for me, that's a whole lot to compare in terms of do I want this and should I trade for it? In practice, stuff's in the dungeon journal. I think people go into a dungeon knowing, hey, there's really good shoulders I want from this boss. They have the trait that I'm really after. You know the name of the item. You're looking for it. It's not that different from a trinket in those terms. Second consideration was Azerite armor. There's reason to want different pieces for different specs or for different loadouts. Maybe I want one piece that has more of a single target focus, and I'll use this for raiding. I have this other piece that I'm going to, has a good AoE trait. I'm going to wear that set when I do Mythic Plus dungeons. And so it's with trading, we're cautious about situations where items that people genuinely want to keep are tradable, and then there's social pressure imposed to give up something that you genuinely view as an upgrade. In practice, that's equally true.
I never had this. I don't know if I'm socially awkward or something like this, or I don't know. If I get an item, especially now on personal loot only, and it is an upgrade for someone else, but it is still an upgrade for me, why would I give it away? I mean, if I have the interest of having, as he just said, a single target and a multi-target set piece, and I have the single target already, and the boss just dropped the multi-target for me, but it is an upgrade for some random that I will never see again. And maybe that's the part where I'm socially awkward or something, because, you will never see them again anyway. And in my opinion, it's still an upgrade. Not for the specific thing that I'm doing right now, but it is definitely going to help me out, as he mentioned, the multi target stuff for Mythic Plus, for example, to wreck the trash or something. It is still going to help me and my character. I have no idea how they could go and say, yeah, there is a social pressure or something to give the stuff away. The only thing that I can think of is you are doing it with a guild, and you are like progress oriented, and the one thing that you just got, even though it's going to be your best multi targets Azerite gear, but it is the best in slot for the demon hunter or something, and I don't know, you have been running in this dungeon for like 6 or 7 times already, and he still hasn't got it, even if it's just once. I mean, then you give it over because he is your guildmate, and the more powerful he is, the more likely it is that the next boss that you are attempting in a raid is going to fall. So I guess that's the only social pressure, but is it really pressure? Because you are giving it to someone that is in your guild, and that is actually helping you in the long run as well, because the bosses are going to fall instead of, hey, we only got 3 bosses tonight instead of 4 because, I don't know, 6 items weren't given away and you had a wipe on 0.1% or something like this. But to a total stranger, as I said, that I will most likely never ever see again. I mean, you're not going to, I don't know, go on the street and just give your money away either, right? Just because you have it to total strangers. I've never felt the pressure of giving money away in the streets, just randomly to random strangers. So, I don't know. I know it's a false metaphor basically, but I just don't see it.
True for things like trinkets. We might have an AoE versus a single target trinket, or an off-roll trinket that you want to use for tanking that might be tradable, and it's up to you. And those downsides aren't enough to justify the annoyance of, hey, this item dropped that I don't need, my friend could really use it, and I can't give it to him or her. So we'll be fixing that next week. Sorry for that pain the first couple of weeks. We agree it was a mistake.
Well, and I think it's a good thing to be overly cautious about as well, because if we were to get into a situation where we thought, oh crap, we really should have made these untradeable, hypothetically speaking, say the roles were reversed here and everyone was like, why does everyone keep stealing my Azerite pieces? It would be much more disruptive for us to say, okay, now you can't trade these anymore, than it would be for us to start with you can't trade them and then add that functionality in.
Exactly. That's why we're often conservative with our designs, because we know it's easier to loosen restrictions than to add them if we feel it's needed down the line once people are used to not having them. But that definitely means that we need to be able to recognize when we've made a mistake and act accordingly. I think that's what's happened here.
Cool. Next question here from Tip, who asked, explain the catch-up mechanic with AP. I've heard different things, would like some info.
Okay. So there is a background knowledge system where it's sort of over time, your Heart of Azeroth becomes better attuned to the energies of the planet and requires less Azerite to level it up. That process is currently planned to start next week. So I think with weekly resets, when people log in, they'll find that, if you needed 7,000 or whatever artifact power to get your next level, you will need less, maybe 5,500 or 5,000, or I'm not doing the math in my head right now, but something along those lines. The goal is this should work functionally exactly like Knowledge worked in Legion once we made it a passive background system in 7.3. The only difference is rather than multiplying the numbers that you're getting, we're reducing the amount required. Math-wise, it's going to be the same impact. The upside is that numbers should feel relatively constant. You will understand that when you see something that rewards 500 artifact power, that's a hefty chunk of artifact power, and that's always going to be that case, whether it's now or 2 patches from now, versus dealing in the millions and billions.
Okay, yeah, it just keeps us away from this quest is going to give me 2 trillion artifact power. I don't actually even know what that means anymore.
Exactly.
Sort of thing towards the end of the expansion. Cool. Question here from Beps, who asked, any plans to increase the incentive/bonus for war mode? After 120, I've noticed very few people are left in my war mode shard compared to non-war mode.
So a couple of pieces here. So the bonus for war mode is something we're being very careful with. I think we want to strike a balance where it feels like a nice carrot for people who like world PvP. It feels like it's making up for the inconvenience of, hey, I went to do this world quest, and oh boy, there's a whole bunch of Horde players in this area, or a whole bunch of Alliance players in this area. I can't. Or I got ganked by a rogue and had to run back, and that hurt my efficiency. We want to offset that, but we don't want to make it so rewarding that people feel obligated to opt into a type of gameplay they genuinely don't enjoy. And so that's a very difficult balance to strike.
Yeah, but actually you do. But I'm going into this a little bit deeper in my top 10 most hated features currently in BFA, so I'm not going to point out all the stupidity that I will point out in that video. I just think it is bad to force PvE players into doing PvP, because it hurts both. The PvE players are basically forced to do it because your Heart of Azeroth is getting stronger. So I don't know. I'm making the same position in the other video that I've already mentioned. But let me explain it just in short. So let's say the next level gives, so I don't know, from 16 to 17 or something in Azerite, or Heart of Azeroth, you will get 0.1% of increased powers, for example. 0.1% is like, yeah, who cares about this? That's like, no one really cares about it. But we're in a situation where we are actually raiding, and there it actually makes a difference, because you in a raid have 20 people. So for to just keep it simple, let's assume we have 10 people. And 10 times 0.1 is 1%. That means that the entire raid has just become 1% better. And as I mentioned already, it's 20 people, so let's double this once more. Then we are at 2% more tankiness, more healing, more DPS, and so on. And I guess every one of you has had already a 0.1% wipe, or very close to that wipe. So there is a pressure for PvE players to actually turn on the PvP mode, even though they don't enjoy PvP at all. And even though you might think, yeah, 1% or 2% is not enough to create, something interesting or so, but let's assume that PvP players are already like, so the guys that have turned on war mode and gotten more Azeroth, like after half a year, they are at level 40 or something Azeroth, or out of Azeroth. And the guys that didn't turn it on are only on level 30, even though they have all done the same world quests. Just because of the 10%, they have gotten so much more, so that it is now kind of relevant. So, and now let's take the 10 Azeroth, and let's assume it's always, it's again, every level is increasing you by 0.1%. This means over the so from 30 to 40, you get 10 times 0.1, which means 1% for you only, which is then multiplied again once more by 20, which is then obviously 20%. So your entire raid is 20% stronger, and we're just talking about 0.1% for each player. Obviously, the numbers are kind of made up by me right now, but it's just so that you get it behind the thought process of someone that is only interested into PvE, that basically is forced into PvP. Another point that I want to make about this, and the last one before we continue with the video, is the PvP player is hurt by this as well. The PvP player wants to basically have one-on-ones and stuff like this with people that are interested in PvP. Now you have a moron like me, no skill in PvP whatsoever, that is just free honor. You don't get something by honor. There is no, I don't know, you can get your I don't know, on the level to 200 whateverness, but I don't know, you don't get stronger or something, so there's really no benefit of you doing PvP except for doing PvP. And a guy like me, if I get attacked and I can see already, okay, I have no chance because I don't know, it's the wrong class that I'm facing or something like this. For example, rogues. I hate rogues. It's just an annoyance for me. I just AFK. So what you get out of this situation that I just mentioned, me going AFK and the rogue doing PvP because he wants to do PvP, both of the players are getting pissed. Me, because I have to run over to my corpse and actually have to, server hop again with some add-ons, WordQuest Group Finder. And the rogue is being annoyed because he was looking for a challenge, like a 1 versus 1, but he didn't get it because I was getting pissed by him attacking me because I'm not interested in PvP. But the incent behind the war mode is still big enough of a deal that I have to go into war mode. Obviously, for the average Joe, casual player, or whatever you want to call it, this is not important. Most of the players will most likely have turned it off that are not interested in PvP. And but there are a couple of players that actually think, yeah, no, the 10% is actually mandatory and you have to do it. Because otherwise I have to, I don't know, play 2 hours more than the PvP players to do dungeons or something to actually keep pace with the PvP player. Because the PvP player, I don't know, let's say you get 5,000 Azeroth per day for doing the world quests. So you get 500 Azeroth for the 10% as a PvP player. So you have to catch up with those 500 Azeroth. And as you have seen in the previous part already, in the dungeon, for example, you only get 150. So you have to do it 3 times to get 450. And I don't know, some randomly gets 50 artifact power from some other source to actually keep up. So you actually have to, as a PvE player, if you have turned off war mode, you have to do 3 dungeons, which can, depending on the tank, depending on the group, and so on, maybe you get kicked or so, because whatever people, you spend like an hour or even more than an hour to actually catch up to the PvP player. And I think that's just stupid. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'm alone with this opinion, but I just don't think that war mode was a good idea. If you want to get PvP players doing world PvP, then do something. Give them areas or something where they can actually meet up and then bash their brains out and stuff like this. But having world quests being rewarding for PvE players, and as I said, it's not really forcing, but in my opinion it is forcing because it is creating a power disadvantage between the PvE players and the PvP players. To forcing PvE players into the war mode is just stupid in my opinion. But yeah, let's go on.
We've been paying a lot of attention to war mode population in general. I think we're looking to increase war mode populations overall on both sides, and looking at logic that can cause shard imbalances to occur. I think something we're seeing now at max level that we weren't seeing previously is, like I mentioned earlier, in the context of these elite world quests. There might be a war mode elite world quest that's up, a group finder group forms for it, fills quickly with 40 alliance that kill that enemy. Now suddenly more horde are brought into that shard as they're entering the zone to balance out the populations. But really, there was just this giant 40-player raid that disbanded and scattered to the winds and used their whistles and used their hearthstones as soon as the enemy was dead. And now we have a suddenly lopsided shard. We're looking at things we can do to detect patterns like those and overall work to improve the balance. I think we're happy with it. It's been awesome seeing a lot of the experiences that have come out of war mode in these last couple of weeks. I think personally one of my favorite things to do is the feeling of going to the enemy continent to do your war campaign world quests with war mode on, and you know that you're in enemy lands and you see red names far more often because you're just outside their capital cities, but you want to do your world quests. That's a feeling of danger that I haven't felt personally in world PvP since the first time I walked into Ashenvale or trying to quest in Hillsbrad as a horde player.
So, unfortunately, I have to stop him here once again because I think he is, totally talking garbage there again. I have done every single world quest ever since the, noon roughly, so at like 10 or 9 a.m. in the morning. I was 120 with my brewmaster, literally doing every single world quest ever since this day here. Now we have 1 week, and 1 to 3 days later I have been killed 3 times. So out of 10 days I had, obviously, I don't know, like 100 occurrences with the Alliance. I got killed or attacked 3 times. So, if that's your experience that was so amazing that he is right now rumbling about, like vanilla kind of style, Terran's Mill and South Shore stuff, you either haven't been in vanilla, or you just straight out lying what you're just saying just to make war mode a thing because you have realized how garbage the system is. It's not working out as intended, and I could have told you that it won't work out as intended in the first place. I've been saying this for a month already, and I've explained to my friends why, and I just explained it to you too, as well as I will explain it in my top 10 video again, that I've mentioned way too often today. I'm sorry. And I will make even more points about why war mode is totally stupid and has nothing. It just should get removed in my opinion, or altered so that PvE players have no interest in doing war mode whatsoever. Remove the the 10% on Azeroth gear for Azeroth, this one here for example. Remove this. keep it on gold, keep it on, I don't know, reputation is not a thing, but what else is there that you get 10% of? Yeah, this one here. War resources. Keep it in war resources, keep it on gold. I think that's the only two things besides Azeroth. So remove it from Azeroth, so that's the 10% war mode bonus. Then you will have 100% of the population that is interested in PvP actually turning the war mode on. They have it already anyway because they're interested in this. And I bet you at least 90% of the players that have no interest in PvP whatsoever will turn it off because there is no reason. Because you get 10 gold here more, and it is not worth the struggle of being more or less ganked by an alliance player or a horde player if you're alliance, obviously. The same goes for war resources. 10% out of 40 war resources you would get here is 4 war resources. No PvE player will turn this on. Only PvP players will use the war mode. It will work as intended. But I don't know, you're too blind to see, or you just don't care that you are forcing PvE players into PvP content, and that both sides are actually suffering from this decision, as I've mentioned already before.
When there were high-level alliance all around, and that's kind of awesome. It's more, our focus right now is on making those experiences more consistent rather than, scattered.
Okay. It's also possibly worth noting, I mentioned a couple of times, expansion's been out for a week and a half now. There are a lot of people that we're still leveling.
Totally.
So there will be more 120s as time goes on that can actually be in your War Mode shard, which will hopefully help as well.
Yeah, and they'll be focused around the same World Quest areas as opposed to scattered around leveling sections in the zone, which means you'll have those World PvP encounters far more often.
Okay. Question here from Solified. I know that we've kind of talked about this a lot, but it keeps coming up, so it's worth clarifying real quickly again. War mode on RP realms, are we phased with any other server, or are we just on our server?
Yeah, I will skip this question because this is just important to RP, and I don't know, it's just nothing that I really care about. And I don't know, 99% of the guys that are potentially viewing this video are not interested in this. I think the thing that he is saying that you're only on your own RP realm, and so yeah, not even shared with, so like not even cross realm zones with other RP realms. So you're just alone on your own server, like it has been in Classic, and yeah. So that's basically the answer.